Alrighty, today we are in Terratech checking out a couple builds that are meant to work together. First up is the mag hovercraft. It's meant to work sort of like a base custodian to pick up all the blocks from all the pieces of the things that you destroy in the area. It's got a geocorp block magnet for maximum pickup. It has very wide set hover pads, and as you can see, a couple of the geocorp active all-axis heavy gyros to help keep it upright at all times, because this thing, it could still get overloaded if you're picking up a ton of heavy blocks, because it's still a hovercraft. That being said, it takes a lot to overload it, like almost nothing but batteries of the geocorp kind. So let's go pick up some stuff. Now the maximum weight, or the maximum amount of stuff that a magnet can pick up, is not based off weight. It's actually based off the number of blocks. So, because I destroyed those little guys first, we get to go back already because we're at our maximum block count. Now both the builds we're talking about today are already posted in the Steam Workshop. This one in particular is the Mag V2, and the base over here is the Scrap and Craft V2. So we can drop off our stuff in the base. The scrappers will pick it up. We can just let it do its thing for a bit. So that's really all there is about this. There's one more feature this has, and that's if by chance you do get completely overloaded, it does have a centralized anti-gravity ring so that you can reduce the weight of the tech even further to help deal with extremely heavy loads. But most of the time you won't need it. So that's pretty much all there is about this one. Now, on to the actual base. So with the base, it only carries refined resources, so it technically can't craft every single block in the game. However, most of the blocks that you'll probably want are the expensive ones, and those all use refined resources. So you can make all of the really good blocks, maybe not just all of them. Because of this, it cuts down on the holding areas by about half. One of the other key features of this base in particular is that you'll notice it doesn't have input lines running directly from the scrappers to a holding silo. Instead, each scrapper has only a dropper, and then the resource receivers are hooked up to the silo. What this means, I'm gonna waste a few resources here to show this off, is you don't actually have to worry about overloading your input lines. Instead, excess resources just get dropped and then picked up by the resource receivers. Even if you completely flood this thing with resources, what I'm gonna do here, it doesn't matter, because it'll just keep on dropping resources no matter what. trying to make a mess. It's kind of hard because it also has... Oh, here we go. You can see them just piling up on top. And eventually, it'll even start kind of spinning them out to the side. We're just going to let this run for a bit while I talk about the rest. So it's got separate unrefined and refined resource inputs. And all of the outputs, it has two outputs from the silo. Which goes up two input lines to all of the individual silos for each resource. And you'll notice they're actually upside down, all pointing down, stacked on top of each other. Because of this, you really, really do not want to move the base using the build beam after you've placed it and have resources inside. It will lag your computer very, very hard if you try that. So as you see, all of the resources that were starting to pile up and make a big mess over here, they've all been picked up by the resource receivers, because they actually, the Better Future resource receivers actually have a pretty wide range, so they can pick up most of the stuff in the area. If you completely overload it with tons and tons of resources and swamp it, yes, it can happen, and you might have to run around a little resource collector for a little bit, but for the most part, you don't need to worry about it. Now, moving on, it even has one storage for components, which tends to get overloaded by stuff that doesn't sell very well. For the most part, the things that are cheaper for component-wise get sold off first. So it's got a separate delivery cannon over here hooked up to a filter that you can basically toggle on and off, so that if you notice your input silo for components is getting overloaded with just tons and tons of cheap stuff, you can just turn the filter on, filter everything, and just let it go. Alright, let's see. Let's throw a few more of these over here. Sneaky little buggers trying to get out. If I had kept the mag in the area, they wouldn't have flown off like that. Anyway. So, twin input lines, all feeding. It also goes to twin outputs for two delivery cannons on each line, meaning it's trying to sell stuff as fast as possible. You don't need more than two delivery cannons, as long as they're the anchored type. And you notice on the back here, it's got two output lines for resources feeding into a single fabrication loop, which actually goes around down to a second set of component factories, and they're set up so that the basic one is first, and then, gosh, it's been too long, I don't remember the names of the dongles. Where are you? I can just look here. So it has one without a dongle first, and then it's the advanced, and then complex, and then the exotic component dongle. So no dongle, advanced, complex, and the one down here is the exotic. So let's make something that I can show you just how efficiently this works. Let's see. I'm going to go for cruise missile, because who doesn't love cruise missiles? So it'll pull the resources directly from there. All of them go out, they pop out, they get fed into the fabricator. It's got one fabricator of each faction currently in the game, or corporation currently in the game. It also has the payload terminals for each one, and a handy dandy SU device to pick up the cruise missile that just got made all ready.